Well, it's a stunning day here at Muriwai Beach. And, gosh, it's quite an interesting scene here today, isn't it? There are two people with their horses riding up and down the beach. There's a man running with his dog, and a four-wheel drive has just headed down onto the hard sand and driven further north along the beach. But is there anything wrong with this scene, Carl?
Yeah, I guess at the moment you can see there is a four-wheel drive parked up on the dunes in the distance.
And what's wrong with that?
Well, straight away on their permit it says clearly that you must avoid the dune area. There's also several signs as we come down through this accessway. So, yeah, it's quite clearly communicated.
I'm Sharon Brett-Kelly, and just as I'm talking to Forest and Birds Carl Morgan, right at the entrance to the beach for four-wheel drives, we spot a tiny bird camouflaged in the sand.
Yeah, there we go. We can see a little dotterel down there.
Oh, and here come some guys in a big four-wheel drive with a motorbike on the back, and they're heading straight down to the hard sand. You know, this is a classic example. They're doing everything right.
Yeah, it looks like they're going the right speed as well, they're taking it pretty easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't eliminate the risk, and even if you don't directly strike a bird or strike a nest, the noise and vibrations that these vehicles cause can actually be enough to scare birds out of their nests. For penguins, for example, the yellow penguin, it'll come into shore with food, and if a bunch of vehicles are driving, backwards and forwards, it'll start digesting the food that it's actually meant to be saving for its young and feeding back at the nest, which can cause, obviously huge problems, starvation of the chicks.
So what chance does this little dotterel have on this beach where on weekends hundreds of four-wheel drives hit the sand? On the detail today, the thrills and the dangers of beach driving, the damage it does and why it's so difficult to control. I'm off to meet some drivers. So, you're about to head down to the beach here at Muriwai. Why do you do it?
Well, I quite enjoy it because it's nice scenery when you're driving along. If you drive up along those forward drive tracks, it's a good place to go, and you can do a bit of fishing out there. Yep.
We've got signs right here in front of us about where you can drive and the beach access, and actually there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signs there talking about, beware and where you need to drive. Are you pretty good about following the rules on driving on the beach?
Yeah, I never go into the dunes. I always stick to the beach.
Why don't you drive on the dunes? What's the reason for that?
I don't want it to be a bad example for everyone and they end up banning the beach. I want to be able to come and enjoy it,
Do you worry about what you might be doing to the wildlife when you're driving on the beach?
Well, I think driving on the hard sand, you don't really do much damage to it, to be honest. I'll get a bit of wildlife, you get seals and whatnot, but if you slow down and go around them, I don't think it's a problem, no.
Do you worry about safety, or do you see other drivers doing stuff that's maybe a bit dodgy?
Oh, you see some people doing skids and whatnot, and I don't really think that's very good behaviour. I try not to do that. I don't do it at all, really. But I think people are pretty safe around the entrance, but the further you go up, you get a bit more of that.
But you still think it's okay to drive on the beach?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it, as long as we're all safe.
Yeah, all right. Hey, thank you. Thank you for talking to me.
It's all good.
Hi, I'm Sharon. So I'm doing a story about driving on the beach. Are you going fishing?
Yeah.
Are you local?
Yeah.
It's pretty rough today. Is it any good for fishing?
I hope so.
Right, you got your family in the car? Because I know it's quite a contentious issue here in Muriwai, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think of the argument? I'm trying to get a feel for, the different sides of the story.
About
safety, the environmental
aspect. It's a big
aspect.
issue. Concerns me.
In what way?
My children have nearly been run over.
Have they?
Oh, just about. Someone doing 80, 100k.
Wow.
And missed my daughter by about 2 metres. Yeah.
What did you do about it?
Oh, nothing you can do, that long gone. Well, just young hooligans, Come down here on a busy day, there'll be families and that lined up here. You get people doing donuts and shit right here. It's ridiculous. But,
What do you know what the rules are?
well, it's road rules.
Yeah.
And road rules apply. Yeah.
Do you ever drive on the dunes?
Nah, it's a waste of diesel.
But apart from that, because it's not good for the wildlife.
Yeah,
do you give any thought to?
Oh, I'm sort of aware, like we get up the top where all the birds nest on and we stay away from it. It's all soft sand anyway and it's hard to drive through. You stick to the low tide mark where the sand's hard. Let's go from A to B pretty much.
It's like anything goes, isn't it?
Oh, at times, yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen anybody try to police it? The council,
Yeah,
the
I've
police?
seen the police try. Yeah. I think last time we come up here was a cop trying to catch a quad, but he didn't stand a chance. Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen the cop come back about 20 minutes later. No joy.
Some groups want it banned altogether.
Yeah, don't like that idea.
And what do you think most people in Muriwai would think, or is it pretty split?
Tough subject, I think.
Hey, thank you. Well,
Yeah,
have a
that's
nice day.
You too.
See you later. So I've walked about 1 kilometre down the beach to a spot where a car is actually parked up on the dunes. There's a big camper van driving my way along the hard sand, which is obviously allowed. I'm just going to go up to this person in this car and ask them what they think about driving on beaches. Hello, is anybody there? No, nobody there. But there's a mattress in the back. Oh, hi. Hi, I'm Sharon Brett Kelly. I'm from the Detail podcast. I'm making a story about driving on the beach. Can I talk to you? Can I just ask you why you are parked on the dunes? Because it's actually, you're not supposed to. You know, there's signs down there that says that you're not allowed to.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to you right now, sorry.
That doesn't worry you, that it's against the rules?
We're not on the vegetation. Can you please
No, but it's the dunes. It's the dunes that you're not supposed to be parking or driving on. Do you have a...
comment? No further comment, thank you.
You don't have a problem?
Problem with you, I think.
Okay, they don't want to talk to me. 2 people with horses here. I'm going to ask them what they think about beach driving. I'm Sharon. I'm making a podcast about driving on the beaches. The thing is, how do
Well,
you...
that's obvious. We don't like the cars competing with us, you know. Most people are courteous, you know, slow down and go around, but some will just go past you, you know. And
At
if
top
the horse,
speed.
it's not that the horse is afraid of the cars, but it's so sudden, you know. And when it's sudden, it will surprise them. They can shy, you know. We've had instances of riders falling off.
And what happens when you go and talk to the drivers?
Oh, we haven't got time to talk to them. We just said a couple of nice words.
Have you tried to do any more than that, like get it better policed? Because it's
No,
legal down
no,
that way.
No. But the worst part of it, you know, the drivers, some of them are their own enemies. You know, you see they sort of spinning around and whatever, and there's a fine margin over here. It's quite greasy. You know, they will spin over. I've seen so many, even bikes. Because I've been coming here for 40 years. We live up here.
Oh, the horse was trying to eat my bag.
Yeah, we must have something tasty in it.
I don't know what it is. Oh, there's an apple in there. I don't know if it would want that.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you've been living here for 40 years and been riding your horses on beaches for 40 years. Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? Are drivers
Well,
more...
we sort of now being a bit careful, don't come every day, you know, because like Saturday and Sunday you wouldn't want to be here.
How many cars would there be on the beach on the weekend?
Oh, hundreds virtually.
Hundreds at the weekend?
Yeah, well, sort of come and go, you know.
Yeah. What's the biggest problem for you? Is it speed?
The biggest problem is that some people, they're just not respecting the horse riders and the horse, you know. It's the same with the dogs. You know, some people are marvelous. They look, you know, grab the horse, put it on the leash, and so on. Some even if you chase their dog away, they will come to you and tell you off. How can you chase my little darling away? And you can't blame them. You know, young people. I mean, they don't realize there's no obstacles. You know, so it's probably more dangerous than the road for them. You know.
Yeah. I'll let you go. I know you're busy, and the horses are desperate to keep going. Thank you. So not only is it wildlife versus big wheels, it's the beach drivers versus other beach users and rule abiders versus rule breakers. Some want vehicles banned, some want tougher regulations, and others just want a free-for-all. I'm sitting in the dunes with Forest and Birds' Carl Morgan. So you have to have a permit now to drive on Muriwai Beach?
Yes, so there's two beaches in Auckland that you can drive on, Muriwai being one where we are today, and the other one being down south, Karetahi. They both require the permits to access them.
And what does that take?
Yeah, so yesterday I went online, just being a bit cheeky, see how easy it was, and I timed myself as well. It took me 56 seconds from opening the webpage to having a printable permit via an online link.
And does it cost anything?
No, so it's free. And yeah, it's a 12-month pass, so I'm free to bring my vehicle down here for the next 12 months as long as I abide by the rules which are stated on the back of my permit.
And what kind of rules? So you're not allowed to drive on the dune?
Yeah, there's just the basic things like, take your safety equipment, drive with your headlights on, those road safety sort of messages. And then as well as that, you are supposed to drive below the mean high water tide mark and avoid the dune areas. There's also a note to be aware of New Zealand shorebirds and the nesting at high tide. I'm not sure how you teach people to be aware of that because the nests that can be found along these coastlines are insanely camouflaged. They could look like a little bit of grass or a little bit of seaweed washed up. So,
they are what, right down to the water's edge?
Yes, they will be. They're anywhere between here and the high tide mark, typically.
What kind of birds are we talking about?
So you've got birds such as the white-fronted tern, the banded dotterels, variable oyster catchers, and then we have our many penguin species throughout New Zealand, such as the nationally endangered yellow-eyed penguin. So yeah, they all use this space, and all it takes is a single tire mark or tire tread over their nest for it to be completely destroyed.
Oh God!
It's devastating to these birds. They're already under a lot of pressure from human activities. You see around the coast, we develop and we farm right up to our coastlines, which can lead to sedimentation and pollution to our environment. And I guess for a bit of context, we currently have 90% of our seabirds and 82% of our shorebirds at risk of extinction or at risk of becoming threatened.
We're sitting here, it's kind of in the dunes, aren't we? And as you said, further down the beach, there is a big four-wheel drive parked up on the dunes. So they're breaking the rules.
Yes, they are.
I mean, is it even more dangerous for the wildlife to be on these dunes? Is there a lot more going on in terms of wildlife and flora and fauna?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of bird life, obviously they'll forage, throughout this whole environment. Some of them out to sea even, and it's just the nesting that's really in this dune area that we need to worry about. So they'll retreat to these areas to sleep, to lay their eggs, and they'll breed up here as well. So they really need a no disturbance sort of environment. And then there's also obviously the flora that's at risk, such as the pingao, which is our endemic species here that they're critically important to hold in all the dunes together. With sea
level rise. Are these grasses here?
No, so these ones are actually introduced ones behind us. Yeah, the pingao's a nice golden colour. They're really important to stabilising the dunes, providing these habitats for the bird life and other fauna in the area. We've got a Muriwai gecko out here as well. Very, very rare. Little known about them.
So what does Forest and Bird want? Do you want a ban of all beach driving?
Yes, so Forest and Bird across the country, our many volunteer branches have been campaigning for complete bans, as well as including themselves in council submissions, as the bylaws is sort of what controls who can access what beach and what activities they can do on the beach. On top of that, we are hopefully calling for the government to change the Land Transport Act to prohibit vehicles on beaches. Obviously, unless for emergency services, surf lifesaving, and conservation mahi. Obviously, these things need certain amounts of access to be successful. And then there's also scope in the RMA replacements that are upcoming, the National Built Environment Act, as well as the National Planning Framework for the government to actually include these sort of restrictions through those processes.
Is it true that all beaches are roads?
Yeah, so in New Zealand, all beaches are technically roads, and that's where the enforcement comes in by police. They can enforce behaviour as we'd expect them to on the road. If you speed, if you drive unsafely, seatbelts, all that sort of thing. Then how you use the beach, as in where you can go on it and what vehicles you can take on it, that is all down to the local authorities, so the local councils.
Part of the problem to me, Carl, when I was looking around thinking, who can I talk to? Who has an overview? Who can explain to me who's in charge? Well, that's a problem because, as you say, every council has its own bylaws. They decide, each council decides which beach they're going to allow beach driving on, what kind of rules they're going to enforce. But as you say, you're appealing to the government to change the laws about it. And then I'm told in some cases the Department of Conservation is involved, and also the police. If there's an incident, an accident, a crime, the police get involved, but they're way too busy dealing with other things.
Yeah, so the police look after the general road safety side of things. If you're driving unsafely, if you're doing donuts or skids on the beach, when there's people around, that's obviously unsafe behaviour. If you're speeding, I see here the limit's 30 k's an hour. If you're going over that, that's the sort of stuff the police will tackle.
How do you do that though? Let's be honest,
I know. Yeah. Well, drawing back to Kariatahi, the other beach that has driving permits, I've worked there for many summers, and the amount of people unsafely driving around there and speeding up and down, racing each other, it's insane. And as lifeguards, we're obliged to call the police to encourage the public safety, and their response times are often quite slow, and that is quite simply because they're dealing with other things, and on top of that, all these coastal communities are very isolated, so it takes quite a while for the police to get out here.
So what? And would you, in any case, approach those drivers yourself?
Typically, if they are behaving like that, they're not going to listen to someone politely asking them to respect the wildlife and respect to other beachgoers. They've got another agenda.
And it is a very touchy topic for small communities, not just here at Muriwai, but all over the country. Places like the Upukerora river mouth at Te Anau, where rare and endangered birds are in a battle against just about everything else. Newsroom's Vanessa Bellu lives there.
Yeah, it's a really high-use recreational river. It's very open. So to one side, you've got the Murchison Mountains to your left, and then you look straight up to Lake Te Anau because the river feeds into that, and you have this most amazing vista of the snow-capped mountains. And then to your east, you've kind of got the road to Milford Sound. But it's a very open, pebbly, rocky beach.
And you say it's a popular recreation area.
Well, it's one place that you can fish all year round. My father's actually a really keen fly fisherman, so when he can't fish in, say, the Waiau, that's where they go fly fishing. It's a really safe place to fish, so a lot of parents take their children there. A lot of people like kayaking there. A lot of people like walking their dogs. And we've got a Trails Trust, and they've built, so the cycle tracks goes to the Upakarua and it goes around behind it. Because you've got to understand, in Te Anau, we're surrounded by national park. You can't, obviously walk your dog in national park. You can't ride your motorbike. You can't drive a car, obviously, and you wouldn't want to. So it's one place you can go and do those things.
Can you describe what the wildlife is like there? Because there's a lot of rare birds that nest around there.
Yeah, there is. There's actually quite a rare bird that nests there, the black-fronted tern. And it arrived yesterday again, and it's quite unusual for the black-fronted tern to nest in the same place. And this will be the third year in a row, and they're quite rare. So the black-fronted tern are nationally endangered, and their numbers are between 5,000 and 10,000. And then we have the black-billed gulls that hang out there. And the banded dotterels they've got higher numbers, but they live there as well.
That you wrote a story about the dotterel, which are carefully looked after by a group of volunteers. 3 of their nests failed last season because they were crushed by vehicles or wiped out by storms.
The banded dotterels, they have quite a tricky lifestyle because they like to conceal their brown spotted eggs in the kind of shingle or stones or sand. So they're really hard to see. And so they can easily be trodden on by pets, by dogs, or people, or I guess if someone's riding their motorbike or driving a car, they can easily be crushed. And they do that. They conceal their eggs from aerial birds, from their predators. And they're also easy prey for your stoats and your rats and your feral cats as well. They're really protective and really good parents. So if someone gets too close to their little chicks or fledglings, they do this broken wing dance. So they pretend their wings broken to kind of lure the people away.
Do they?
So they're really clever. And so if you ever, I guess, are walking on a braided river or beach and see a bird doing this, then just stop, think about it, and turn back to the way you came, and maybe look for a different path into the water. But yeah, the fishermen, I have to say, I got a bit of criticism for my story, and it definitely was not a jab at fishermen, because they are really good down there. They understand. The volunteers talk to them a lot, and they seem to be doing a really good job of not driving on the beach. And yeah, it tends to be more your ad hoc users.
So what is being done right now to protect those dotterels? What sort of efforts? Because, on some beaches, the area is roped off and there's signage, and, it's made clear that you just don't go there. But what is it like there?
Well, the volunteers have put some rocks up. So they've kind of fenced off, in a way, with these natural rocks, the car park. So you kind of have a defined place where you can park your car. They've put up signs, and the monitoring teams, they're down there most days during the breeding season and roosting season, talking to people and educating people. There's a Facebook group, and I talked to the team leader or coordinator, George Lidgard, and he said in the future that we're probably going to have to kind of put more of a natural barrier to deter off-roaders by, I guess, doing more Indigenous planting. And they've done this in Christchurch, actually, and it's worked really effectively. They could go in and they could, I guess, ban people from using the area, or try to. But it's more about education, and people in Te Anau are really environmentally conscious. So it's probably not the locals, and they're probably going to police it themselves, but it's a popular holiday spot. And when the tourists come back, which they're starting to come back, it's more problematic for this community group. You're never going to there's going to be that 1% of idiots that aren't going to read the signs and care and are going to drive on the beach.
That's it for today. I'm Sharon Brett-Kelly. The Detail is public interest journalism funded through NZ On Air and produced by Newsroom for RNZ. You can get us downloaded free to your mobile device every weekday from any podcast platform. Today's episode was engineered by Jeremy Ansell and produced by Bonnie Harrison and Sarah Robson. Thanks to Carl Morgan and Vanessa Bellew. Mā te wā.